Hello, everyone. I'm Rebecca Lombardo, host of VendorVibes and fractional CMO. Today, I'm here with Greg from TrueStay Protect. Hi, Greg.
How you doing?
Good. So, thank you for joining me, and I'm looking forward to learning more about this. Can you tell me what is TrueStay Protect?
Yeah, absolutely. So TrueStay Protect is a specialized fraud prevention and risk consulting firm. We're dedicated to detecting, defeating, and deterring fraudulent activity in the VR industry. We provide investigative experience, data analysis, in-state monitoring, and we also tailor consulting services to help property managers and homeowners protect their revenue, reputation, and the guest homeowner experience.
So, what makes you guys unique or different?
Yeah, I think what gets us is some of the pain points that we're trying to solve. There's constant facing threats from fraud, criminal activity, operational risks. They're all leading to damages, financial loss, reputational harm. And in starting this business, I found that most people think that it's just kind of a cost of doing business. And then when you look at the staggering amount, a study in 2023 and 24 through the National Insurance Crime Bureau shows that the hospitality industry wrote off over $7 billion in that one calendar year in fraud as a cost of doing business. So we want to educate and solve this by, again, detecting, deterring, and trying to defeat that fraud. There's a lot. You got the refund scams and chargeback scams, what have you. Employee fraud, which is a big piece. As I've been educating some potential clients, that same study showed that 78% of the employees admitted at some point to doing something fraudulent for their employer in the industry. Could be so much as just, not cleaning something the way they said and stealing some towels, all the way to renting homes out that are not operational and they're collecting that money, fake injury claims, etc. Then you have the fake identities, which many people are aware of, but there's a lot of criminal activity. You have human trafficking, drug smuggling, prostitution, illegal parties, and fake listings, and then the unauthorized guests, pets, and property misuse, things like that. And at the end of the day, really, what makes us different is we want to protect your revenue and help you retain your clients. And we are really the only one in the industry at this point that does booking and beyond. There are some very good companies that do some front end verification, what have you, and they're great products and really they co-align with what we're doing. But we're constantly evaluating the entire rental life cycle in a very frictionless manner. So we're experts at data analysis. We have our own proprietary utilization of that data, and it makes us unique in the fact that we are going from the booking and beyond and then helping afterwards if there's issues.
It is interesting. And I did see somewhere that just this kind of fraud in general is up like 30% year over year.
It
Um,
is 38%. Yes.
Well, seems very high and dangerous on the back end, like you were saying.
Yeah, and it's again, it seems like it's a new vertical or a new thing that's happening in the industry, but it's not. It's been going on for a long time. I would like to add, I've got 25, almost 26 years of experience investigating fraud, whether it was property, auto, bodily injury. I also ran a catastrophe unit for a top five carrier. So I'm very familiar with the property and the home space as well, and I have a deep understanding of those fraud schemes, which definitely relate to this industry as well.
So, do I need to have anything in place in order to work with you guys?
Well, there's a few things that we would like to see. So, an ideal person is a property manager or homeowner that values fraud prevention, their reputation. They already have a risk management plan in place or want to have one, right, and protect the revenue. But they're going to be proactive in securing their business and looking for a little bit of guidance to combat fraud, criminal activity, and the operational risks. The ideal scenario would be someone that has 10 plus vacation rental properties. However, um, single property owners are those that have a smaller book, but they're high risk, high in value. That's where you're going to get the employee fraud, for example. Most people just think about the renters. It's not necessarily the guests that are going to do it. It could be your very own employees in a very high risk single property area. But the ideal customer is someone that's been in years of business, probably 2 to 3 years, so that we can review some data. We want to be able to establish if there are frauds that are occurring and what that pattern is. And but with that, if you are a new startup, get a fraud plan. We can help you with that so that you don't have to worry about that 2 or 3 years of losing your revenue. Um, Ideally, you've probably experienced fraud, chargebacks, some criminal activity. Those are things that, again, most people think it's just the cost of doing business, but when we sit and look at it, we could have saved you that, and you're being hit by fraud. The other thing is just location, market type, to be quite honest. High traffic vacation rental areas for us are the beachfront destinations, the mountain and lake areas, urban hotspots, right? So Las Vegas, New York, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, for example. And then a place that's sort of forgotten, I've noticed, since I've come in this industry, are the college towns or event heavy locations. There's a big event, a big concert, a venue that's coming into town. There's very high risk because there are a lot of last minute rentals, what have you. Maybe some people that want to do different ways of getting that, or adding folks that shouldn't be in there, or some potential bad actors. So those are all kind of the things that we're looking at right there for a potential customer.
Normally, I would ask, what would your happiest clients say about you? But it sounds like you've already saved people possibly millions of dollars.
I have, but admittedly, I am new in the VR space. I've been around it for quite a while. My wife has been in the industry for 20 plus years, so I have done quite a bit of consulting with some of her clients over the years and people I've met through conferences and what have you. Being in the insurance industry, we've had a lot of conferences where we were at the same place at the same time. So just you commingle a little bit, and I've had a few where people had some scenarios and I've helped them save some money over the years. If I can give you two quick examples that kind of sparked my interest coming over here that are very relevant. While at the top carrier, we had a person who claimed a work injury. They did happen to work for a hotel chain that also does resorts and villas, which is in your space, but obviously I'm not going to say who that is. But they claimed that they were injured. They said they couldn't go to work, couldn't go to the gym, they couldn't please their spouse, drive. I mean, the list was long for a very simple slip and fall that did happen. There was video of it. So, I mean, it was a legitimate loss. And I always like to say that accidents are legitimate, things do happen, but there's an exaggerated factor that people don't look at. So, using the tools that we use here at TrueStay, we basically were able to find out that they were not, there was no restrictions whatsoever on their activities. They were only pretending to be hurt, including a cane, a neck brace, you name it, when they showed up for interviews with their doctor or attorney's office. Settlement attempts were made, no luck. So I was able to go in, what I would call here in our space, the in-stay social sweep, and found them on date nights, at the gym, dancing. They're also an influencer on TikTok, so found a whole bunch of TikTok videos. They sued for $375,000 for this injury claim. It was dismissed. It was paid out for $500 of a legitimate hospital bill, and they were charged with insurance fraud through the state and referred to the National Insurance Crime Bureau. So very relevant. I was just at a conference last week, one of my first ones, fully going here at TrueStay, and someone that claimed $80,000 because they dropped a vent on their foot. So we talked about it. Wasn't a legitimate claim. So, there's one example. But the one that truly sparked my interest in this industry was for a big resort, and they do a lot of short-term rentals and vacation rentals. Someone stayed there for a whole week, and on the last day, they said they wanted their $7,000 back because the hot tub didn't work. And, they chose that particular room because they have a breathing condition to help them relax. And, they want at least some money back. So this particular client hotel was going to offer them half their money back. So since they were a large client of ours, I said, let's take a peek. So what I did using some of the monitoring tools and the data analysis, found out their background, what have you, and found a picture of this gentleman in the hot tub, taking a selfie, smoking a cigar, drinking beer, alternating pictures in the very hot tub that they said was not working. And then a bunch of other party photos, found out there was a pet in there that shouldn't have been in there, all kinds of things. So they had planned to give half that money back because he was threatening a review. And then there's chargeback fees associated if it gets that far, that's going to cost the property manager or the owner. So they ended up not giving anything back. And then the individual agreed that, you got me. I Googled how to commit fraud at a vacation rental and just thought I could get away with it. You would give it a shot. That was literally the response. It is very common. It happens a lot. But again, most people are focused on the front end, just verifying who's in there. But things can change once somebody checks in. So that hot tub incident actually really sparked me to say, there's some issues here. and some money's going out the door, and reputations are being ruined for no reason.
That's very interesting. And I think it probably is more rampant than a lot of owners even want to think about. So thank you for sharing that story with me. So, okay, if someone hears this and they're interested, are you only working with companies within the US? What does your territory look like?
Yeah, at this time, we're keeping it to the U.S. We can do UK if we wanted to go there. All the data that I use is available. Canada as well. So North America is our primary focus. That does extend beyond the continental U.S. So Alaska, Hawaii as well are all included because I got to make sure that my network is available to go out in the field because we do offer field services. So I want to make sure that we can do that in a timely manner.
Okay, great. And if somebody wants to get in touch with you after hearing this, what's the best way?
Whatever way makes them happy, right? So I want partners, not just clients, but the easiest way is obviously through our website, which is www.truestayprotect.com, and true is spelled out all the way. So truestayprotect.com. You can email me directly at gjustice@truestayprotect.com or info@truestayprotect.com. And then my phone number is always available, 410-777-0470. Call me direct. We can discuss something and try to set up a consultation. We can have a discussion. There's no fee for a one-on-one talk. If we want to set up a full consultation, we'll go from there. My goal is just to make lives easier and protect everybody's revenue and reputation. And then we are on social media on LinkedIn and Facebook as well at TrueStay Protect.
Perfect. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing more information about it.
No, I appreciate the time.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.